All right, welcome back into another edition of the Red Sox Rundown. I filmed a video last night that is going out today. That's the video you're about to watch. But of course, just my luck, we actually got some fairly significant news that came in just a few hours ago. Ken Rosenthal had the report. Jon Heyman confirmed the report. Everything that we've seen is gauging that this report is accurate. Catel Marte will not be traded by the Arizona Diamondbacks this offseason. I never thought it really made sense because they've got him on years of team control on a fairly franchise-friendly deal. So I never thought that it really made sense. I get you get a haul back, and then you know they could potentially sign Alex Bregman and blah 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 blah. But he's still considered the best second baseman in all of baseball. You know, a little bit older. I get it. But yeah, I never understood the rumors. Now, was I all for them? Of course. If the Red Sox could have brought in Ketel Marte, he would have been an absolute game changer. I talked about that on this channel ad nauseum at this point. But alas, he will not be traded, and he is not going to be a member of the Red Sox. Not going to be a member of anyone else either. This is big for a few reasons. One, no Ketel Marte. There was a rumor that I was actually potentially going to talk about in today's video, but I ended up not talking about it, that the D-backs would have been interested in a Connolly Early or a Peyton Tolley in a deal. If that's what it took, I probably would have done it, but I would have been, I would have been very hesitant to make a move like that. And then on top of that, yeah, you're not going to land him. That's the first big thing. The second big thing is this is big for the Alex Bregman market, because I really did consider, after Kazuma Okamoto signed with the Blue Jays, I really did consider Arizona to be the biggest threat. There are some reports about the Cubs, which we're going to talk about in today's video, actually, that I don't think that they're really going to be that involved. I really thought after Kazuma Okamoto signed with the Blue Jays that it was the Red Sox and the D-backs. And I was worried about the D-backs. There were reports that the D-backs were willing to go 6 years. Bregman's offseason home and where he works out in the offseason is in Arizona. Like, that's a comfortable place for him. And if they were willing to give him the 6 years that he wants, I was at least a little bit concerned, but there was the big caveat that it was if they traded Marte. And they're not trading Marte. There's a report, Ken Rosenthal had a report again today that said that there's still a world where they could sign Bregman. I find that a little bit rich because he also reported they still need to add to their bullpen, they still need to add a right-handed first baseman. You're not going to be able to do all that and sign Alex Bregman, so I do find that a little bit rich. So it really does seem like the Red Sox are the front runner here, and I think they always have been. I don't think that was ever anything of dispute. But the D-backs coming in and being this mystery team that was willing to offer 6 years, his offseason home, like that's at least a little bit concerning. So it seems like it's the Red Sox deal to lose. Of course, we have the reports. They put out an aggressive offer that they're very happy with, that they think is competitive. We'll see what happens. I do expect the market to start to move a little quicker now. I have said in videos over the past few weeks, I think that whatever happened with Ketel Marte was going to be the first domino, because then teams were going to start making their decisions. If he was not traded, then all the teams that were in on him were then going to have to pivot. If he was traded, then all of the other teams that didn't land him were then going to have to pivot. Now we have the decision. He will not be traded, so the teams that were in on him are going to have to pivot now. So I expect moves to be made soon. That's why you subscribe. Because when moves happen, we make videos. Even if they're moves not technically involving the team, I will also make videos. Talked about the Shane Baz trade, talked about the Kazuma Okamoto signing. Like, I want to cover it from every angle for you guys. And that's the commitment you're going to get here. So make sure you subscribe and join the family today. Okay, let's get back to our previously scheduled programming. None of it really is outdated with this Marte news. We do talk about Marte for a few seconds in the Bregman segment at the end of the video, but the rest of this still stays true. So let's get into the video, and thank you all so much for watching. All right, here we go. Welcome into this edition of the Red Sox Rundown. I am your host, Jack Lotteray. A lot of things have happened over the past few days. We've got a whole bunch of new reports that I want to get into, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Before we get into it, I just want to ask you off the top, because we're getting closer to spring training. We are about a month and some change away from pitchers and catchers reporting to Fort Myers. Who's your favorite player on the Red Sox right now? So 2026 roster as it's currently constructed. Who's your favorite player on the team? There's some obvious ones. I think Roman, Marcelo, Crochet. You let me know down below in the comments who your favorite Red Sox player is right now. Mine, still Jarren Duran. I have his City Connect jersey. He's one of my favorite players in all of baseball, and my mom and I got to meet him at On-Field Photo Day last year. He's a super cool guy. Like, he's the dude. If he gets traded, I'm going to be very disappointed. At this point, I don't think he is, which is good news for me being a Duran fan. But you let me know. Who's your favorite Red Sox player? Get down below in the comments and let me know. All right, first things first. Arbitration deadline was yesterday. If you do not know what this is the deadline for teams to negotiate deals with players that are still a part of the team but are in their arbitration years to avoid arbitration. Now, you're probably asking, what is arbitration? Arbitration is they're hearings that happen between the player and the team to find the worth of the player. Once you have a certain amount of years of service time, then you have what's called arbitration, where if you are unable to land on a deal for a specific amount of money, you go to a hearing and a non-biased arbiter listens to the facts of the case, and they pick which side they side with. The player and the team both they put in dollar amounts, and then the arbiter decides which side basically wins. It's a very ugly business in baseball. So most players end up, settling for a deal before arbitration even hits. And so the Red Sox had 5 players that they needed to make deals with over the last few days before the deadline, and all 5 of them did. Cutter Crawford got a $2.75 million deal. Tanner Houck got a $4.15 million deal. Johan Oviedo gets $1.55 million. Tristan Casas gets a $1.61 million deal. And Romy Gonzalez gets a $1.6 million deal. So these were all going to have to happen. People are like, oh my gosh, why are we paying Tristan? It's like, they're going to be on the team anyway, and they're going to get paid by the Red Sox. This is not like you just can't pay him. Like Tristan Casas, I know a lot of people don't like him, but you got to pay him. He's part of your roster, and he's not going to be a free agent, so you got to pay him. So yeah, these deals are done. No arbitration hearings for the Red Sox, which is a good thing because, again, I think it's a really nasty side of the business. It's never fun to walk into a meeting and your employer tell you all the things that you're not good at and why you don't deserve the money you think you deserve. Like, it's a nasty part of the business. So none of that for the Red Sox this year. We had the whole Jarren Duran controversy last offseason. And yeah, I don't think any of these players are going to be able to elect for free agency next year. I could be wrong on that, but I think they are all still going to be on the team after next year. Like, I know I saw a comment on Instagram saying, why are we giving Johan Oviedo a rental contract when you traded away the password? It's not a rental contract. Johan Oviedo still has a few years of team control. It just so happens that he's in an arbitration year, so they had to sign him to an arbitration level deal. That's how that works. And you would have known about this if you were following me on Twitter, because I was posting about these all day yesterday, and I also post highlights, analysis, a bunch of different things over on Twitter. It's at Jack Lauderay. I'm going to leave that linked in the comments and description of today's video. My goal for this year is to get to 5,000 Twitter followers. We're just over 1,000. It's a very lofty goal, probably my most lofty goal / New Year's resolution of the entire year, but I really do want to grow my Twitter following. So if you've not already, go follow me on Twitter. Again, linked in the comments and description of today's video. I was tweeting about all of this stuff yesterday, so you would have already known what happened yesterday if you were following me on Twitter. Let's talk about Justin Wilson and the relief market as a whole. I actually do need to, so just bear with me for a second. I want to have these player stats up so I know what I'm talking about. But basically a report came out. The Athletic, Will Salmon, Ken Rosenthal had a report. They had a big article come out a few days ago with the latest news and rumors. We're going to talk about more of these rumors here in a little bit. But there was an interesting note about Justin Wilson. And I've talked about Justin Wilson multiple times here on the channel. I think that he would be a great re-signing, a great reunion for Boston. You still need a left-handed reliever. Your options aren't that, you don't have that many options on the current team. It's Giovanni Moran and then one of the guys you acquired in one of your trades who doesn't have a lot of experience. You don't have a lot of left-handed relief help, which you need. And you've traded away a bunch of your guys, Chris Murphy, Brendan Bernardino, just to name a few. And like I said, Justin Wilson's not here. So I have thought that Justin Wilson, quick and easy, re-sign him, bring him back in. He was solid for you last year. He wasn't, a world beater, but he was still solid. But The Athletic had an interesting report on Justin Wilson a few days ago. Veteran pitcher Justin Wilson, perhaps the best lefty available in free agency, is considering retirement, league sources say. It is unlikely Wilson, 38 years old, pitches in 2026 unless it is on a fair deal with a legitimate World Series contender. Very interesting. Now, you could consider the Red Sox a World Series contender. And if they were to give him a decent deal, he could very well be back on the Red Sox in 2026. But it's interesting nonetheless that he is considering free agents or considering retirement. And that'd be a big blow because he is someone that, like I said, the Red Sox were looking at and someone that the Red Sox should have been looking at. So Chris Cotillo put out an article after this report came out, and he said that there are some external veteran left-handed options that the Red Sox are currently in on. Danny Columbe, I still don't know how to pronounce that name, Tim Maiza, and Sione Perez. I apologize if I butchered these names. Pronunciation is not my strong suit. But let's talk about them real quick. I think Danny Columbe is probably the best option if you cannot bring back Justin Wilson. He actually had a really, really solid 2025. Let me just pull it up real quick. 43 innings pitched, a 2.30 ERA, 43 strikeouts, 18 walks. Like, that's a solid stat line. He had a FIP of 3.30, so okay, not great, but not the end of the world. And there's been reports that he's been linked to the Red Sox for a while now. This is not a new thing. He's been linked to the Red Sox a few times this offseason. So if the price is right, and if Justin Wilson is going after free agents or going after retirement, then he might be an option. Let's look at Tim Maiza now. 2025, played with two teams, 16 2/3 innings, so not a huge sample size, but in that time, a 3.78 ERA, 15 strikeouts to 5 walks, a FIP of 4.16. Again, not a big sample size. Had 42 1/3 innings the year before and had a 6.33 ERA. Probably wouldn't be my preference, but if you can't lock down Columbe and Justin Wilson retires, he might be an option. And then there's Sionel Perez, who in 2025 only 21 2/3 innings, an 8.31 ERA. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is you really have two options. You've got Justin Wilson, you've got Danny Columbe. I think those are your two options. Other than that, I'm not convinced that any of these options are really great. Maybe the pitching lab gets in and fixes some of them. Maybe Craig Breslow sees something in some of these guys that's valuable. I'll trust Craig Breslow and Andrew Bailey when it comes to pitching. So if he sees something in these guys and he brings them in, great. There are also internal options, too, in the minor leagues. Some people that they've brought in via these trades that they've made over the offseason that could also be contenders. We don't know. We will see once spring training starts. There are always surprise additions and surprise players that come out in free agency. I was a big proponent of Luis Guerrero last year. He's no longer on the team, unfortunately, my sweet prince. But yeah, there are always these players that show up and show out in spring training that you need to keep an eye on. And that's why you subscribe, because we're going to have coverage all spring training long. We're going to go through the roster, go through all the players, and we will have our roster here in a few months. Would you bring back Justin Wilson? If he was willing to come back on a deal, would you bring him back? S for sign if you would, P for pass if you would not. I want you to type one of those letters down below in the comments. I'm spamming my S's in the comments. I would sign Justin Wilson in a heartbeat. He knows the system. He was solid for you last year, and you need a lefty. You need a lefty in your bullpen, and he's the best option on the free agent market right now. All right, let's finish out with Bregman and Bashette. I know people don't want me to keep talking about Bregman this, Bregman that, but he's the big free agent you're going after. He's the big bat that you're trying to bring into the lineup. Not big bat, but you know what I mean. He's the big acquisition you're trying to bring back. So I'm going to continue to report on it. I'm going to continue to report on all the new reports until a decision is made. Let's start with Bo Bichette first, because the Red Sox have talked to Bichette. That is clear. The Athletic, again, this is Will Sam and Ken Rosenthal. They had this report. The Boston Red Sox and Chicago Cubs, new team in the fray, are among teams talking to both players, Bregman and Bashette, according to people briefed on the conversations. The Blue Jays have been in touch with both, too, but are now appear to be more focused on Kyle Tucker. We've talked about this over the past few days. I don't think that the Blue Jays are really in anymore after signing Kazuma Okamoto. I think that they are more in on Tucker than anything. I think that Bichette and Bregman are just not, they're not on their radar. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But let's talk about Bichette first. Bichette's asking price, according to Jon Heyman, is thought to be around $300 million. I think it's a bit of an overpay. Bichette's young. He's got some high upside, but his defense isn't great. He really only projects as a second baseman going forward. That's not worth $300 million, in my opinion. I get the age, I get the offensive upside, but that's a little rich for me. And I don't think he's going to get that. This is a lot like the report that Pete Alonso was looking for 7 years. He ended up getting 5 with the Orioles. So I don't think he's going to get anywhere near $300 million, but that's something to at least think about. Would you be willing to give Bichette $300 million if you don't want Alex Bregman, which I know a lot of people in my comments do not want Alex Bregman. Another interesting thing that has come out over the past few days, this comes from Matt Gleb, who is covering the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies have a meeting set with Bo Bichette in the coming days, and as circumstances this offseason has changed, so has their interest level in the star infielder. So, a new trainer has entered the arena. The Philadelphia Phillies. And, we don't want the Phillies involved because don't want the Phillies involved at all, because when they get involved, they're going to make moves, and I think the Red Sox need to lock something up quick, because Dave Dombrowski, he doesn't F around. And you're if the Phillies are involved, you need to get moving pretty quick. All right, let's talk about Alex Bregman. Again, I think Bregman is the person that they're focusing the most on. They are in on Bichette, but I do think Bichette is the backup plan if Bregman goes elsewhere. So let's talk about Bregman. I did a short on this, did not do a full video on this, but this is a significant report from Jen McCaffrey. With pitchers and catchers reporting in just over a month, the Red Sox have made what they feel is a competitive offer to free agent third baseman Alex Bregman, a league source confirmed. Now they'll wait to see if Bregman agrees. The source, who's familiar with Bregman's negotiations, confirmed an ESPN report, the Buster Olney report that we've been talking about, that the Red Sox offer was quote-unquote aggressive. Now, at this point, what does aggressive mean? That's up to interpretation. I don't think anyone really knows what aggressive means. But I said this in the short. I'll say this here on the full-length video too. Hat off to Buster Olney. He doubled down on his reporting. I did not believe it. I was very, very skeptical of this reporting. But the Red Sox have made an offer, a competitive offer, that they feel is competitive. Again, what does that mean? What do they think competitive is? That's, it's something to think about. And it's apparently an aggressive offer. So that's good. That's good that they're doing that. The ball, it appears, is in Bregman's court. I don't love that thinking, but I do think that they'll continue to be active in the Bregman sweepstakes. Mark Feinstein has the report that while a number of teams continue to monitor Bregman's market, multiple major league executives believe the three-time All-Star will ultimately return to Boston. I do think that is what's going to happen, because there's a lot of things that go into this. And Mark Feinstein had these notes, which I've talked about in past videos. Okamoto's signing likely takes Toronto out. Like I've said, I think that it is Kyle Tucker for the Toronto Blue Jays. I think they are out on Bregman. The D-backs are seen as a major player, but that could change if Marte is not traded. As we've seen in reporting over the past couple of days, it does not seem like Marte is going to get traded. So that is yet another team that is probably out, and they seem like the team that is in heaviest. The team that, according to reports, was willing to offer 6 years. If they're out, that's significant. Sources say the Cubs are in, but not likely to be a high bidder. Okay? So they don't really seem to be that serious. And the Cubs, this is another one, this isn't really on, but the Mets could enter the mix. Oh, no, this is actually, excuse me. The Mets could enter the mix on this if they miss out on Tucker and Bellinger, which could happen. The Red Sox, all of what I'm saying here is the Red Sox need to act fast. Because if you get Dave Dombrowski and you get Steve Cohen of the Mets involved in these bidding wars, you're going to lose. Because Dave Dombrowski and Steve Cohen are willing to do anything in their power to sign the free agents they want. They're willing to spend the money. They're willing to do that if they think that a player can define their team for the next year. And as we've seen, the Red Sox have not been willing to pay that money. They did it last year with Bregman, but it was on a short, high AAV deal. Eventually, they're going to have to swallow their pride. They're going to have to give him the 5 years. Or if it's Bichette, maybe the 6-7 years. They're going to have to be aggressive and decisive eventually. Maybe it's not with Bregman. Maybe it's with Bichette. But they cannot let these Cowboys, these quick fires, these quick draw McGraws, that you cannot have Dave Dombrowski and Steve Cohen get in on these bidding wars. It can't happen. If it does, the Red Sox may not end up with either. And at that point, they're going to be in big trouble. So I think it still seems likely that Bregman ends up with the Red Sox, but if some of these other names get involved, that might be something to be at least a little bit worried about in the near future. I'm going to go back to the Bichette thing here because I want to ask you, I want to get your thoughts. Would you be willing to give Bo Bichette $300 million in a deal? Let me know. Type Y for yes if you would. Type N for no if you would not. I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comments because this is an interesting question. I don't think I would. I think that's a little bit rich for me. And again, I inevitably don't think he will get $300 million, but it's something to monitor over the next few weeks. But you let me know. Y for yes, N for no. Would you be willing to give Bo Bichette $300 million on a deal? That's where we're going to end it, folks. Thank you all so much for taking time to watch this edition of the Red Sox Rundown. If you have not already, consider hitting that subscribe button. When the Red Sox make a move, we make a video. And I've been making videos in shorts every single day so far this year. That was my New Year's resolution, was to post a short every single day covering the latest and greatest surrounding the Boston Red Sox. So if you've not already, hit that subscribe button. When the Red Sox make a move, when they sign Bichette or Bregman or whoever they end up signing, a video will get made. I can guarantee you that. And then when the season starts, daily videos like last year. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch this video. I really, really do appreciate it. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And until next time, go Sox.